the North Atlantic Ocean, there exists an unofficial region shrouded in mystery that goes by the name of the Bermuda Triangle. The triangle itself is connected by sunny Miami in America, San Juan in Puerto Rico, and the island of Bermuda in the Sargasso Sea. It's an enormous stretch of ocean that encompasses over 1 million square miles. It is filled to the brim with tales, rumors, and stories from as early as the late 1400s. They all seem to recount confusing, unexplained, and dangerous phenomena experienced by the sailors and pilots navigating through the area. In fact, as many as 50 ships and 20 aeroplanes have reportedly disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, and pilots and sailors traversing the area have been plagued by compass and electronic malfunctions. They have seen strange lights and unexplainable visual phenomena, and some have even claimed to have traveled through some type of time anomaly or wormhole. Beyond that, violent weather events pop up from seemingly nowhere with very little warning, and lives of many traveling across the triangle have been claimed, with the waters becoming a graveyard for those brave enough to explore it. How can you explain the unexplainable? Is it the lost city of Atlantis? Aliens? Wormholes? Jeffrey Epstein? Let's find out in this week's episode of The Red Thread.
Woo!
Yes,
there it goes.
Bermuda Triangle, boys. This is a big one. I used to think about the Bermuda Triangle a lot when I was growing up. I thought it was going to be a way bigger deal than what it was. I was scared of the Bermuda Triangle growing up. Like, that's an issue out there. That triangle is coming for me.
I was the same way because of Jimmy Neutron. There was, I think it was in the Jet Fusion special. They have like the Bermuda Triangle equivalent. And that's when I learned about it. So I thought it was going to be like really scary stuff. And when I looked into it a long time ago, I was like, oh, this is super fucking lame.
Yeah, it's very, very...
The three things we learned as a kid that would be a much bigger problem as an adult were the Bermuda Triangle, quicksand, and catching on fire spontaneously.
Wait, spontaneous combustion?
Yeah, stop, drop, and roll. You know, like everyone was like, if you're ever on fire...
Spontaneous. That's like if there's a house fire.
Yeah, but if you're in a house on fire, that's not the time to... like, the way it was always portrayed is like if you're ever just on fire for some reason, and not within a fire, but on fire, stop, drop, and roll.
But that is the correct advice, right?
You smothered the flame.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so stop, dropping, and rolling is the correct... Okay, advice for anyone else out there that might not know, stop, drop, and roll. It saves lives, potentially. Unless you're in a house fire, in which case get out of the house first and then stop, drop, and roll, probably.
There you go.
Right?
That's the spirit. Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on the level of house fire and the level of your fire, but yeah, user discretion in that scenario.
True. Regardless, you're not going to be stop, dropping, and rolling your way out of the Bermuda Triangle because it takes up a lot of the ocean and you can't roll in the ocean as well, obviously. So that won't protect you against the Bermuda Triangle. And as we just said, Bermuda Triangle, massive deal when we were growing up, all of us probably. Like, it's definitely like weaned off in terms of cultural relevance over the last maybe like decade or so, but I remember it being enormous when I was growing up. Like, it was stuff that we used to talk about and be like, whoa, something is actually going down in the Bermuda Triangle. Like, it was always such a fun source of mystery.
That's cool.
Okay.
I just don't have the same experience. Like, I only really knew about it from Jimmy Neutron.
That's it?
He only knows about it from a single pop culture reference.
Yeah, we never really talked about it in school or anything.
Okay, well then we definitely had different experiences.
Well, I guess my opinion of it was I thought that when I got older, it would be like, oh, the Bermuda Triangle is like this uncharted part of the sea that no one ever steps foot in. And then I realized it's like the most traveled part in the world. You know?
Yeah, it's a massive shipping corridor, and
so it's like
transit route.
Okay, well, I guess it's not that spooky if everyone's just kind of disappointed.
My mental image of the Bermuda Triangle was growing up was like this stretch of ocean that permanently had thick clouds over it. No one would go in there and come out. It was like this entirely mysterious,
like middle of
unexplored.
nowhere. No one accidentally goes through there, but then it's like the most traveled route. In the world.
It's just an ocean. Yeah.
Every cruise ship in the world just like lives in it. Yeah.
Connected by 3 extremely popular locations in Puerto Rico and Miami. So that entire area.
Ah, yes, Miami, truly the uncharted corner of the globe.
Yeah. But I think maybe the difference, Charlie, is potentially, and this is like a real life experience for me, we had a theme park ride a local theme park ride at our SeaWorld on the Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, in the 90s and early 2000s, called the Bermuda Triangle ride, and it was like this flume ride set in a giant like active volcano, and it was really cool and also really scary for children. I was scared of it. There were like aliens inside when you went up there, and they like jump scared you and shit like that.
It sounds
cool. Really fun, really cool.
Yeah, that sounds really nice.
That kind of that sparked that kind of like, you know, imagination in me about the Bermuda Triangle. I think that might have been the first like exposure to the Bermuda Triangle for me. And then I would go home and like read books about it and like be like amazed by this concept. Real quick though, this episode is brought to you by Babbel and ZocDoc. More from them later on in the episode. They can't wait to tell you more about the Bermuda Triangle. And we also have show notes below, a lot of research into just a lot of the events that transpired in the Bermuda Triangle. So if you want the best information about it, so you can plan your next holiday through it safely, head to the description below to check the sources and the show notes. A lot of good information in there. And we're also on Spotify and iTunes, and you can find links to those below as well. Ratings help us out a lot, as well as commenting and just watching in general. Share it with friends and stuff. It really does help, and it really means a lot. So the very first situation we could find pertaining to the Bermuda Triangle, a little known guy, you might have heard of him, Christopher Columbus.
What a guy.
Ring any bells, guys? Yeah.
He's that guy who gave us a day off from school, right? That was his big contribution.
Yeah. Well, not me. We don't observe Columbus Day over here, sadly.
What, do you guys have like James Cook Day or something?
No, we don't actually. I think we just have Australia Day, which is when we were officially founded.
That's lame. Yeah.
Super underwhelming. You guys should try and lobby for a Columbus Day.
Yeah. So, as a non-American, he was the guy that discovered America.
Well, right? It's hard to discover a land people were already on. He discovered it for Europe, effectively. Yeah. He was the first person sent by a European dynasty to be like, yes, there is land over here that no nation in Europe has claim to yet. So that was the significance.
Through act of God, we have claim to it, basically. Yeah.
Oh, the people that are already there, you ask? Oh, don't worry, we'll give them these blankets, and that'll be a fair trade.
Yeah, they were a fun group of people. Christopher Columbus, deserves his day. So in 1492, Christopher Columbus, obviously a famous explorer and navigator, was on his first voyage to the New World. As we say, it's not really the New World. It was there previously, but it was a new world.
It was new to Spain.
It was a new world to Christopher Columbus. He had never seen it before. He sailed right through the area that is now known as the Bermuda Triangle. Insert like scary noises and like lightning sound effects there if you want. Yeah. He wrote that he had seen a great flame of fire that crashed into the sea, followed by a strange light that glimmered in the distance weeks later. As he entered the area, he also noted really erratic compass readings, which is a recurring event in the triangle. Many people have those kinds of situations where they're like compass instruments malfunction unexpectedly, leading them to become very disorientated in the triangle. Spoiler alert, that has a logical, explanation that we'll get to eventually. But for now, suspend your disbelief. That shit was going wacky in the old compass department, and Christopher Columbus didn't know what he was looking at. The Great Flame of Fire, though, I'm not sure what that could be. Do you guys have any ideas there?
Maybe like the sun reflecting off the water.
But it was a flame of fire.
I don't know.
I'm sure the early Catholic Church thought it was like an angel of God descending to guide his way or whatnot. I'm sure they had some ridiculous.
They could rationalize it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it was Gabriel going to lead the great conquest or whatever, something like that.
I actually think it could potentially be like a meteor crashing into the ocean. That's the only thing that I could think of that would like. That makes sense because they didn't have
as illogical as the angel one there.
I know. It would be so unlikely. But this is Christopher Columbus. He's the fucking main character, dude. He discovered America.
Sadly, there were a bunch of dinosaurs in the New World, but as Christopher was arriving, the meteor wiped him out. Just missed him. Tragic.
What else could it be? There's like no planes that could crash.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's probably just something reflecting off the water that he thought was fire. Like, I don't think it was an actual fire pillar that rose from the ocean.
That's how it was described.
Aurora Borealis.
I feel like he was surrounded. He was a nautical expert. He was on ships all the time. I'm sure he would know what the glint of the sun on the ocean looked like.
Maybe he was just like really groggy after waking up from a nap.
All right, it was all that smallpox that was getting to him. So also anecdotally, this is interesting. His first voyage was the only one that passed through the bulk of the triangle, with his second, third, and fourth voyages to the New World instead traveling along the interior of the Caribbean Sea. Was he too afraid to travel back through the triangle? Probably not. I think he probably just went the safer route.
No, I think you should. No, I think you should say that he was afraid. Why was it safer, huh?
What a coward!
Because the Bermuda Triangle.
I don't know anything about boating or like sailing, especially not in the 1400s. But I would imagine the safest way to do that is along coastlines, right? Not over open ocean.
I would say the safest way to do it is to not sink. So, yes.
I would think the safest thing to do is take the shortest path there. So if it was along the coastline being shortest, maybe that, but I don't know.
Okay, well that doesn't work because the other voyages are longer because they went along the coastline.
He might just be bad at what he does. Maybe he just wasn't very good.
Or maybe those were the voyages where he actually discovered South America as well, and that's why they have Columbus Day down there, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, he was probably looking for different locations each time that he.
Yeah,
did.
that probably
true.
he is
a lot
an
of it was
explorer
trying to
that
map
probably
it.
makes the most sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Columbus was like the first kind of written, documentation we could find based around the Bermuda Triangle. Stuff happening in the Bermuda Triangle. He didn't refer to it as the Bermuda Triangle at that point. He didn't know there was a triangle there. He didn't have the information that we now have. He just thought it was a weird area,
what
basically,
a fool.
and stuff happened.
Haplessly traveling to the triangle.
Absolute idiot. 1609, ship named Sea Venture was built. It was the flagship of a convoy that was built to voyage to Jamestown, Virginia to help revive the colony there. Led by Captain Christopher Newport, the ship had around 150 passengers and a crew aboard. It left port on June 2nd and was the largest fleet that England had sent across the Atlantic Ocean to the west at the time, consisting of 9 ships and around 600 passengers, livestock, and provisions. Many of the passengers on board were skilled workers, carpenters, fishermen, masons, volunteers who had left Europe for the potential that America held.
Did you say fishman or did you say fisherman? It sounded like you said fishmen.
I definitely said fishmen. too much One Piece, I guess, yeah. On July 24th, the fleet, merely days away from their final destination, was hit by a massive hurricane. The Sea Venture became separated from the group with waves over 30 feet bombarding the ship endlessly while torrential winds tore at the sails. The ship, understandably, developed severe leaks and started taking on substantial water. The crew fought a losing battle against the rising water for 3 days until their motivation had been depleted, with one sailor saying that they were commending our sinful souls to God, committing the ship to the mercy of the gale.
That's so fucking badass. That's such a badass line to go out to if that's going to be your final line. What did he mean by sinful souls though? What were they doing on that boat?
Well, everyone was sinful. Everyone is sinful. So it was just one of those things like we're being punished, and then he gave a salute as the ship sank.
Yep, gotcha.
The crew of the Sea Venture had accepted their fate, but by pure happenstance, they drifted to an inhabited island, Bermuda. It was rumored to be haunted, and a passenger on the ship, William Strachey, wrote that they had found it to be the dangerous and dreaded land. We found it to be, this is from William, we found it to be the dangerous and dreaded land, or rather, the lands of the Bermuda, whereof let me give your ladyship a brief description, before I proceed to my narration, and that the rather because they be so... It's like reading a fucking statement from a child.
You have to read it in a pirate voice, Charlie, or it doesn't work.
It's old English.
It's stupid English. It's like that clip from that kid who's like, have you ever needed, but you wanted it, and you wanted to do it so bad you'd do anything?
Put the pirate accent on it.
All right.
Do it.
And that the latter rather because they be so terrible to all that ever touched on them, and such tempest, thunders, and other fearful objects are seen and heard about them, that they're called commonly the devil lands, and are feared and avoided of all sea travelers alive and above other places in the world. And it pleased our merciful God to make even this hideous-hated place both the place of our safety and a means of our deliverance.
Yeah, did that not feel better? Tell me.
Yeah, it felt better.
Cool. Thank you. Okay.
I like how they spell their words, though, like safety.
Yeah, they spell it like your Australian slang.
Yeah, that's why I connect with it so much. We never grew out of that stage.
Well, I think this is technically getting close to like early modern English, but like Middle English, there was a lot of double L's. There weren't a lot of Y's. It was IEs, stuff like that. Like there a bunch of different conventions and spelling.
Yeah, the progression from Old English to like modern day English is a very lengthy kind of transition, and you see it in a lot of words that eventually, like you can see it in a lot of these words, like safety spelled SAFETIE is like, yeah, I can see where they're going with that. Eventually they'll get there.
Yeah,
and
it's really Old cool. English is like unreadable. Like you can't. It's closer to German than English. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has its roots in like Germanic or whatever.
English is a Germanic language, yeah.
Yeah.
Despite this, the crew fared well at Bermuda. Food was plentiful and there were no dangerous animals that they had to worry about. They were able to fish, hunt, and collect water and began to build houses and boats. This is, ironically enough, the complete opposite of the other ships that arrived at Jamestown sick. They had abandoned much of their supplies due to damage from the storms. The mortality rate was 80% and they even resorted to cannibalism.
Those are the people at Jamestown, by the way. And Jamestown is like the very first English settlement in America, correct? I think.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And so when the Brits sat down there and set up their little establishment at Jamestown, shit didn't go so well for them. 80% mortality rate. They had to have supply chains running back to like kind of repopulate it. And that's what this little trip was initially. And that fared pretty poorly as well.
In mid-1610, Captain Newport and fellow castaways hopped on boats that they had crafted out of Bermuda cedar and parts from the Sea Venture wreckage and set sail. When they came across Jamestown, they quickly realized that it was not worth saving.
Imagine like crashing on a deserted island, working for like 2 years to repair your boats to like set to the final destination. You show up and somehow they were worse than what they had come from. Like you're like, oh fuck, I want to go back.
That's also insane. Like you're in Jamestown, like, well, at least rescue will be here soon, and then these guys show up on like reed boats and rafts. Like, don't worry, the cavalry's here.
Finally, help! They brought their Bermuda cedar. We can build our houses out of that.
They gathered those who had survived and ventured to Newfoundland, where they came across Thomas West, who went on to serve as the first governor of Virginia. He was able to bring a year's supply of food, meaning everyone then returned to Jamestown.
I like how that's written, actually, that they just came across Thomas West. He's just out of the woods. And he saved the day.
He was just an NPC that was wandering, and they just happened across his pathfinding.
Oh, hello there. I hear you're in need of
assistance. Come save the day.
I have a year's worth of supplies, traveler. Like the excerpt written by Williams above, some of the crew wrote about their experience on the Sea Venture and all that occurred in the Bermuda Triangle. Williams, however, became quite popular in London's literary scene. The story is said to even influence William Shakespeare in his work The Tempest. That would check out.
Yeah, so even early on, the Bermuda Triangle was kind of impacting culture through Shakespearean tales such as The Tempest, and it's kind of obvious why these situations would go on to color the more like mysterious elements, because shipwrecks, like ship disappearances and stuff, happened very commonly in that area, and people were attracted to that idea of like danger and stuff in terms of like literary work and stuff like that. So pretty obvious why it would go on to kind of become it would proliferate in that kind of way.
So from there, we are on to Ellen Austen and the mysterious ghost ship. And this is when, bad stuff was happening with sea travel through the Bermuda around that time, but all sea travel, bad things were happening with. It was, sure, it was a science, but it wasn't good science. People died a lot. But in 1880, that's when kind of, humanity, or like at least the culture within the New World, is settled enough that people are beginning to kind of make stories out of stuff, recognize anomalies. So one of the first main cases of the Bermuda Triangle is in 1881 when Ellen Austen, or the Ellen Austen, a 210-foot long ship, was heading towards New York from England. The voyage was helmed by the experienced Captain Griffin. Near the Bermuda Triangle, the ship came across another smaller vessel. Looking through a spyglass, Captain Griffin observed that the ship had no identifying flags and no crew. Understandably, he thought it was a trick by pirates and decided to steer clear of the ship. Pirates were like a super common problem during this time. So maybe pirates were like all hiding under the ship, or they had wrecked this ship and was using it as bait, waiting for, them to come. Either way, he wants to get out of there.
Pirates of the Caribbean is a true, honest to God story. Like
it is
not really, but like it was obviously. It took inspiration from the piracy problem in the Caribbean at the time. That was a legitimate thing, a legitimate concern for ships traveling through the area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the spooky skeletons as well.
The spooky skeletons were there, and the curse of the Black Pearl is real, is what I was trying to say.
You best start believing in red threads, Miss Swan. You're in one.
There you go. I told you the pirate voice was fun.
It is.
No, I use that during a lot of our esports watch parties. I use a lot of like stupid fucking lines from a bunch of movies, and one of them I always settle on is that fucking line from Barbossa.
It's such a good line.
It is such a good line.
So applicable to
that's
everything.
A great line, and the line "You're off the map, Jack. Here there be monsters." That's so good.
Yeah,
that's great.
Another one I do is
we named the monkey Jack.
Those are the first three. Like, sure, the first is the best one, but all three of those movies hold up.
Yeah, they do.
It was a good
they're
trilogy.
Fine. Yeah, they're good.
They hold up.
Everything after that is dog shit, though. I actually hate the movies after that.
Yep, terrible.
Sure, absolutely. But the original three, good stuff.
Yeah. Was the third one the one with the giant like water sinkhole? Am I remembering that correct?
Yes.
Was that
the finale, they're fighting in the whirlpool. Yeah.
Yeah. That was awesome.
It's good stuff. Anyway, the real pirates. But days later, the schooner was still just drifting listlessly close by. The captain, now sure that there was no possible way that the pirates were this dedicated to the gambit, decided to search the ship. They found no one, and the logbook was missing. There was, however, valuable mahogany wood on board that they claimed along with the ship itself. Griffin put some of his best crew on board to manage the ship, and the two sailed together until they were separated by a storm.
So they were the true pirates. They just took over the ship and took it for their own.
Well, if it's been 3 days and no one's there, it's clear that
people
the crew
could come back. Maybe they
something.
they sailed a little sailboat away, and they were just going to come back eventually and take it back. It's still theft.
No.
Well, it wasn't anchored, so it'd be hard to find it again.
Yeah, it'd still be.
Look, you get your 48-hour like decency period or whatever,
Finders
and then
keepers,
it's fair claim. Finders keepers, yeah. The Pirates Code. A few days passed, and Captain Griffin spotted the ship again. But as he inspected the ship from afar, he noticed that the crew that he had put on the ship were all completely gone. Oh, that's fun. He reluctantly placed another, now well-armed, crew on the ship. They were to stay side by side and ring bells to each other periodically.
He didn't give the other guys guns or anything to defend himself on the spooky pirate ship?
Well, I mean, how often on the sea do you need guns when you're right next to a ship that does have guns?
We just established that there were pirates around.
Okay, yeah, but you're right next to the command ship. It's like, okay, we're on our way back now. Like, you wouldn't think. And maybe they had like a flintlock on them or something, but now they're actually like they have rifles, presumably, right?
Yeah.
Actually, this is 1881. Percussion cap revolvers would have been standard. I'm thinking older. They had like actual rifles potentially.
No, he gave them wooden sticks. That was his idea of
maybe.
Paddle boards.
As darkness fell that night, fog developed so thick the ships lost sight of each other. And then the bells stopped ringing. Griffin continued hoping to hear the reassuring sound of the other ship, but it never came. In the morning, the Ellen Austin was all alone.
Aww.
This story is an old one, and there are many discrepancies and variations in its telling. Brian Dunnings writes in his article, The Mystery of the Ellen Austin, that in the Lloyd of London, an insurance company dating back to the 1600s, insurance record that there were actually 0 casualties in the voyage of the Ellen Austin, and that everyone arrived in New York safely. Even though it is possible that they came across a derelict ship, there isn't any real recorded evidence in any contemporary or believable documents. Now, I'm going to ignore that fact because I think it's cooler if any crew put on the ship disappears.
Yeah, fuck the what was the insurance company's name? The Lloyd of London. They don't know what they're
doing.
Lloyd of
London. Yeah.
They just want to protect their bottom line. They didn't want to pay out the insurance, probably.
There you go. Now you're thinking. Mm-hmm. Now you've got your red thread brain on. There you go. Yeah.
When should we ever trust insurance companies? That's like rule number 1 of red thread. Fuck insurance companies.
Rule number 1: don't trust insurance companies. Rule number 2: Jeffrey Epstein.
Connected to everything. He was on that ghost ship.
he was on the ghost ship, exactly.
He was smuggling that day. I love this story. This is probably like my favorite story, even if it is a story, which I fully believe that it's real.
It's so fun.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of like ghost ships and stuff.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
That's always a cool concept.
The idea of like every time you put a crew on there, they disappear. That's awesome.
Yeah, keep doing it. Let's see how many we can lose.
It's like it could be like a ghost thing or like an alternate reality thing. Like there's a lot you could do with that. That's a fun story.
Or they went insane and jumped overboard for some reason.
Yeah. Or like there's so many different ways you could take it. That's great.
Or there were pirates hiding in the floorboards maybe when then they came out.
Yep. Oh, they're in the walls.
Yeah.
That's fun.
We're going to take a quick moment to hear from our sponsors and then we'll get right back to the next Bermuda Triangle event.
Who, to clarify, are not pirates.
So. No, they're good people.
I want to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, ZocDoc. Have you ever been at a family event or maybe just dinner with friends and someone asks a really weird question you'd rather not answer? While that can be fine with social events, that is definitely not fine when it comes to healthcare. Because I'm sure you, or if not someone you know, has had a bad experience with the doctor. And if you don't feel comfortable enough with that person to ask the questions you need to, you might not get taken care of. But now ZocDoc is here to help. ZocDoc allows you to find and book doctors who you will be comfortable with and will actually listen to you. That's because ZocDoc works as a catalog of tens of thousands of doctors that have been reviewed by patients for other patients. Think about it. How many of us go out to eat dinner or even go to just get a coffee from somewhere we know nothing about? I mean, if my wife and I are making reservations, we'll look at Google Maps and see how many stars the restaurant has. But when it comes to doctors, we just walk into a clinic and hope. Well, ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. No need to make an appointment in person with a receptionist or over the phone. You can do all of that through ZocDoc. And not only are the doctors on ZocDoc verified, but they're also reviewed by other patients. You can even filter doctors by location, what conditions they see, and even what insurances they'll take. The typical wait time to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc is just 24 to 72 hours, with some people getting same-day appointments. And again, we're talking tens of thousands of top-rated, credible, patient-reviewed docs. It's okay to settle for some things in life, but your health shouldn't be one of them. And now with ZocDoc, you don't have to. And there's never been a better time to get in on ZocDoc, because right now, if you go to ZocDoc.com/redthread, you will be able to get the ZocDoc app for free and find and book a top-rated doctor today. That is right, for free. Again, that's ZocDoc.com/redthread, ZocDoc.com/redthread to get in on this fantastic healthcare tool today. Thank you all so much for watching the ad. Thank you so much to ZocDoc for sponsoring the show. It really does mean the most. Hope you all check them out. Link is in the description. And now, a word from Jackson.
Learning a new language is one of the most impressive things a person can do. I know I'm personally impressed whenever I hear someone that's like, you know, they know 4 to 5 languages pretty fluently, enough to have a conversation in them anyway. Like that is so impressive to me because it takes a lot of time and dedication to learn a new language enough to where you are able to converse with, you know, a natural speaker in that way. So it makes sense then that 1 in 5 Americans specifically have learning a new language on their bucket list. And maybe you're one of them as well. But where do you start? Well, I'd recommend Babbel. It's the science-backed language learning app that is proven by studies from Yale and Michigan State and other universities to actually work. In fact, one study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is the equivalent to a full semester at college. Think about that. You don't even need to go into enormous amounts of student debt to learn a new language. You can just use Babbel. Super easy, convenient, and fun. You don't have to pay hundreds of dollars or waste hours on processes that don't really help you speak the language. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons have been handcrafted by over 200 language experts with the goal to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. For example, I've been using Babbel to brush up on some French here and there for when I visit France next. And in case I need to find certain things, now I know I can say où sont les toilettes to know where the toilets are, for example. Very important in time-critical situations, if you ask me. Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, and all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee, meaning you can give it a shot right now with the confidence that you'll have a great time learning a new language. Even better, there's a special limited-time deal for our Red Thread listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners. So that's at babbel.com/redthread. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/redthread, spelled BABBEL.com/redthread. Rules and restrictions may apply. Big thank you to Babbel for sponsoring the show and teaching me how to ask where the toilet is in a bunch of different languages, and for just making a great app, to be honest. A very affordable way to learn a language. A great tool for all of you out there who do want to learn a new language, so highly recommend you go check them out. And to wrap up the sponsor slots here, big thank you to you guys for listening to all of them. Highly recommend you go check out all of our sponsors. It really does help out the show a lot if you do that, and it also is a fantastic service in that of ZocDoc and Babbel. We really do appreciate it beyond words, and it would really help out the show if you do check out the sponsors, so links below to them in the description below to make it as easy as possible. Thank you very much for listening, and now back to the show.
The USS Cyclops. It's the disaster that remains the biggest non-combat loss of life in the U.S. Navy has ever experienced, and it took place in the Bermuda Triangle. When the United States declared war on Germany, the USS Cyclops and other similar ships designed for moving coal fell under the reins of the Navy. On January 9, 1918, the USS Cyclops departed from Norfolk, Virginia en route to Rio de Janeiro to transport supplies between the ports in a fairly standard routine operation. The ship arrived at Brazil on the 28th of January, staying for 2 weeks to resupply and conduct maintenance. On the 15th of February, it departed with 309 people on board, heading to Bahia, Brazil, which was the only intended stop at the port before it arrived back in America at Baltimore. It arrived in Bahia and then departed on its final leg of the journey home on the 22nd of February. However, the ship made an unplanned stop in Barbados due to the water level being over the safety limit on the vessel, potentially due to overloading through the investigations in Rio determined that the ship had been loaded and secured properly. On March 3rd and after that point, they seemingly vanished. Those upon the ship were never seen again, their fates still unknown to this day.
Yeah, as far as I know, no wreckage has been found or anything.
Wow.
They just completely disappeared. And it is the great, like was said, it's the greatest non-combat loss of life in the U.S. Navy. And it took place in the Bermuda Triangle, boys. What does it mean?
It means probably something with aliens and the occult.
There you go. Now we got him, boys.
It's the only thing that makes sense.
About time.
Though, reading Jackson's propaganda, the most obvious answer is that submarines of the Imperial German Navy, known to operate in the West Indies, sunk the ship, but the German Navy denied any involvement or having ever seen the ship both during and after the war.
I trust them. I take their word for it. Why would they, I get after the war when we're kind of friends with Germany. Well, this was the World War I, so we weren't really friends after World War I.
We were not friends with them for a while. Yeah.
But yeah, why would you take their word for it during wartime? They're like, no, we didn't do that.
Honor. It's an honor thing.
Yeah.
Did you do it? And you say, no, I trust you. Reports indicate that a violent storm swept through the Virginia Capes area somewhat close to where the ship was meant to be traveling at the time, which could have contributed to an already precarious situation, such as the ship being overloaded or having engine trouble. An extensive naval investigation concluded, however, many theories have been advanced, but none that satisfactorily accounts for her disappearance.
Yeah, so even the Navy was like, aliens. It's got to be aliens.
This report was written before two of the Cyclops' sister ships, the Proteus and the Nereus, also vanished in the Bermuda Triangle less than a year after their sale to civilian operators during this time period.
Yeah, it was around the same time, which that was like the disappearance of the Cyclops to me wasn't like too wild because, as we said, ships crash not often, but they crash they crash sometimes. So it's like entirely possible that they just, crashed. But then 2 of its other ships also disappeared in the same area around the same time. That's strange to me.
Both ships were transporting heavy loads of ore similar to what the Cyclops held on its final trip. Rear Admiral George Van Doore suggested that the loss of the Cyclops could be due to structural failure, as the sister ship suffered from issues where the I-beams that ran the length of the ship had deteriorated due to the corrosive nature of the cargo. It's an interesting
I can't remember what they were carrying.
Ore.
Acid? Just straight up vats of acid? Well, no, it wasn't coal, I don't think. It was something other than... Oh, it says it right here.
Yeah, ore.
Manganese ore. Yeah. I don't know what manganese ore is.
Furthermore, in 2009, an expert from Lloyd's, yes, the same Lloyd's as the previous notable incident, investigated the loss. They concluded that the manganese ore, which was much denser than coal, had room to move within the holds even when fully secured, and that the other ore became a slurry when wet. As such, it was determined that the load could shift and cause the ship to list. Combined with the storms in that area at the time, it's possible that engine failure and the propensity to list due to the cargo created a situation that the Cyclops and her sisters could not escape from. So it's just entirely the cargo that fucked them?
Because all 3 of those ships were carrying the same kind of ore. And they were the same ships, so they had the same, structural failings. Yeah. Exactly. So that's the most likely situation. If it wasn't the German Navy,
and it wasn't aliens,
then it was probably that. Well, we haven't ruled out aliens, so we don't know. Also, on screen at the moment, and for audio listeners at home, there's a picture on screen at the moment of the intended route, and you can see where they disappeared, and it is in the Bermuda Triangle for sure. Yeah, I mean, that one's a pretty interesting one. But next we have Flight 19, which is our very first what is it called? Aeronautical? Is aeronautical space, or is that sky?
I think that's space. Aerospace is space, right? Yeah, aeronautical is over water.
Yeah, I think it's got to be aeronautical is over water.
Well, then it's perfect. I meant what I said. Very first aeronautical situation with Flight 19. On the 5th of December, 1945, a routine flight training exercise was being carried out by 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers named Flight 19.
Wait, hold on. Okay, it seems that in actuality, aeronautical is just anything to do with flying and has nothing to do with water.
What the fuck is the nautical part of it then?
So nautical, to my understanding, nautical means like adventure or voyage,
navigation.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So like that's why. But it also does mean water and like so, I don't know. Aeronautical just means planes. Okay, so it's correct either way. But
we'll tackle that in next week's episode of Red Thread. Yeah. It's a conspiracy. So. This was like a flight, a collection of planes flying together in a military operation, or a military training operation anyway. So they departed from U.S. Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That's a place near Tampa, isn't it? Or is it on the other side?
Other side. Wait, is
other
it?
Side?
No, Fort Myers is the one on the other side. Never mind. Yeah, I think it's near Tampa.
I don't know, Charlie?
I have no idea.
You don't know where Fort Lauderdale is?
Don't you live in Florida?
I do. I just don't. No one goes to Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale is like a fucking ghost ship here.
It has to be on the Bermuda side. It has to be on the Bermuda
side.
So
it is on the. It's on the East Coast. Yes, it's not on the Gulf. That makes it's on the East Coast. Yeah. Fort Myers is the one that's on the Gulf side. Yeah, that's right.
The Texas side, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. They departed from U.S. Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and were to execute navigation problem number 1. Which is what they called the operation, which is a hilarious name, which was to fly east from the Florida coast and conduct bombing runs on the ocean. They weren't expecting any bad weather. Wait, maybe that's why fucking ships were going missing at the time. The U.S. military was just dropping bombs on it.
Hold on, they were conducting. This is after World War II because the war ended.
I mean, it's very shortly after World War II.
April. Yeah, it ended in April. So what were they bombing?
Well, I mean, what do you mean?
Just the ocean.
It was a training exercise.
Yeah, they were just dropping.
Oh, it's a training exercise. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot that word. I'm like, wait, what are they? 8 months after the war, what are they attacking? Huh?
They would still be training a lot after World War. It's not like there was immediate peace.
Yeah. They were still training exercise makes sense. Yeah.
plus we got to keep up the mysterious element of the Bermuda Triangle. Drop some bombs down there, crash some ships. Word gets out. The east coast of America becomes a very popular spot.
And also, hold on. But to save my credits, the war in Europe ended April. War in Japan ended in September. I know that. I'm not just for the audience who
Japan's pretty far away from
I need to
Bermuda.
keep some level of reputability. Continue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they were flying east from the Florida coast and they were conducting these bombing runs on fishermen. They weren't expecting any bad weather, and Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor was the flight leader. He was an experienced aviator with around 2,500 flying hours under his belt, as well as experience in World War II air combat. So he served in the military during the time of war, and he had experience in that. He was a very skilled pilot. I think that's pretty obvious. Everything was going as planned, and the practice bombs were dropped without a hitch. As they began the second leg of their journey, Charles sent a message to the Fort Lauderdale flight tower saying, quote, "We cannot see land. We seem to be off course." End quote. The tower tried to establish where they were to no further response. Charles wasn't squawking back. After 10 minutes of silence, however, Charles was again able to communicate with the tower. Quote, "We can't find west. Everything is wrong. We can't be sure of any direction. Everything looks strange, even the ocean." End quote, which is a very mysterious message to receive. After another 20 minutes of silence, the flight tower found out from intercepted transmissions that for some unknown reason, the flight leader turned his command over to another pilot. Then a hysteric voice sent a message, the last ever heard from Flight 19, which was a collection of planes flying, in the same direction. So, quote, "We can't tell where we are. Can't make out anything. We think we may be about 225 miles northeast of base. It looks like we are entering white water. We're completely lost." What is white water? That's when the waves are like really fierce over like open ocean, right? Is that what white water is?
I've never heard that term. Oh, actually, no. I've heard it from whitewater rafting.
Yeah. What does it mean in this? It looks like we are entering white water. I took that to mean like we're not coming back to base. We're somehow over the open ocean.
A stretch of water with a broken foamy surface, as in rapids.
Weird.
Light colored sea water, especially over shoals or shallows. This is funny because it's three guys who know nothing about like ocean stuff. Like, what do you think this means?
Well, I do know about how not to get lost. You go in one direction for a long time till something comes up. Bunch of fucking idiots.
Not true. Not true. As you're about to see, that is what led to their downfall, in fact.
Damn. Shit. I should have never listened to my command.
What do you think? They've got enough fuel to fly all the way to like Iceland?
Yeah, like if you just get like moderately lost, just like pick a direction and just keep going forever.
That works when you're not constrained by like fuel.
Yeah, just use like the
fuel
infinite
limits.
gas cheat code.
There you go. Those things have wings, they can glide. That's the whole point.
If you have like no navigational skills, that is the tip for if you're like lost in a national park or something, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the worst things you can do is like walk around in circles, right?
Yeah.
Waste all your energy
In the United States, aside from Yellowstone, there is nowhere in the country that you cannot walk for 40 miles and not hit a road.
Damn, wait, that's a
true?
fucking crazy tip.
Yes, I've heard that before. It may be 30. I'm pretty sure it's 40 miles. But yeah, you will hit a road 40 miles in every direction aside from Yellowstone.
Regardless, there's probably a lot of roads that are just as long and empty as the forest themselves, so you might still be walking for a long time on the road.
Oh,
but at least you're on a road.
but there's some sign of civilization.
Yeah,
or something
civilization,
like that,
and you're not just walking around in circles in the woods.
Yeah.
Regardless, that doesn't help in the ocean anyway. You've got nothing to go on other than landmarks
luck.
and your instruments, which were not working at this time, it seemed, because they talked about how we can't be sure of any direction, and they have mechanical compasses and stuff like that in the aircraft, which we've discovered the Bermuda Triangle does not cooperate with very well. Shocked into action though, 2 PBM Mariner flying boats were sent out on a rescue mission. They headed for the last known locations and checked in with the tower 10 minutes into their flight, and then nothing. They also vanished. These 2 PBM Mariner flying boats that were sent out to save the flight, they also vanished. An extensive search was carried out for days with the Coast Guard, Navy, and Navy aviation personnel. They searched 250,000 square miles in the Atlantic and Gulf waters, but they came up entirely empty. No wreckage was ever found. 27 lives were lost in total that day in Flight 19 and the rescue mission. An investigation was launched, but nothing conclusive was ever found. But we do have the 500-page investigations and from the Navy, and it returned the following observations. These aren't anything that like concretely determine what happened, but they're observations from the Navy. So bullet point number 1. Flight leader Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor had mistakenly believed that the small islands he passed over were the Florida Keys. Where are they? They're at the bottom of Florida, right?
Yeah, they're off the bottom.
They're like the little islands down
They
there.
like tail off the very bottom of it, yeah.
So he believed that he may have been over the Florida Keys, that his flight was over the Gulf of Mexico, and that heading northeast would take them to Florida. However, he was off he was west to Florida, so doing that meant that he was just traveling northeast into open stretches of the ocean, which is why he was so confused. It was determined that Taylor had passed over the Bahamas as scheduled, and he did in fact lead his flight to the northeast over the Atlantic Ocean. The report noted that some subordinate officers did likely know their approximate position, as indicated by radio transmission stating that flying west would result in reaching the mainland, but they couldn't determine where west was, which is awful.
Man, that's a hard spot to be in.
Yeah. The next bullet point, Taylor refused to change the radio training frequency to the search and rescue radio frequency. In parentheses, the training frequency was difficult to use because of interference from Cuban radio stations and also a radio carrier wave. So that's why they were having the radio issues, was because they were getting a lot of interference from other noise across the network, across the frequency. And he, for some reason, didn't change to the search and rescue radio frequency. It wasn't determined why that was. Third point, though, that they made was Taylor was not at fault because the compasses stopped working, which is a very important element of navigation.
Yeah, it's not like he was like, no, I feel like I should go this way. None of their navigation was working. He was making judgment calls, yeah.
Yeah, in a very stressful situation where it was probably pretty hard to determine where you were and your main form of navigation, the instrument, the compass instrument, was not working. It was like a very tough situation, and unfortunately he made the wrong decision, but that doesn't mean he's at fault. And finally, the loss of the PBM-5, so those rescue aircraft, was attributed to an explosion. So an entirely different situation, entirely just a very bad day for the Navy. Just an awful situation.
The rescue crew going to that same spot and also disappearing is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it was two of them. Two of them went out, right?
Exactly. It was this
That's
initial
so
flight.
Weird. Two different planes that go out disappear in rescue for the one that already
it was more than two
disappeared?
planes, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, I think there were 5 planes in the initial formation, and then 2 planes were sent out after that as
so a total of
aircraft.
7 planes went missing all at once in this one little exercise. That's so strange. What the heck?
27 lives were lost, just 2 entirely different situations too, it sounds like.
You know how you know those stories about like the Japanese soldiers who stayed in like the forest of Guam for 20 years or whatever? Yeah. Do you think maybe there was like a German U-boat next to Florida? Yeah, just like to the bitter end, holding out.
Well, it wasn't even that long after World War II. It was like 7 months.
It was a couple months. Well, it was a couple months since the war in Japan ended. The war in Europe ended in May, so it's been like 6 months since then.
Yep. So, as I said, Taylor likely became disorientated. I think that's the most obvious answer, thinking that he was over the Florida Keys when they were actually in the Bahamas. Due to this, Taylor's insistence on heading what he perceived as west, as pilots departing Fort Lauderdale were instructed to do in the case of disorientation, instead led them northeast, farther out to sea, and directly parallel to Florida. So they were just kind of going along the coastline of Florida almost. Yep. Beyond their fuel range. So the most likely situation or outcome of this was they ran out of fuel and eventually deplaned into the ocean. The PBM's explosion, on the other hand, was likely due to its flexible fuel lines getting loose in rough conditions and leaking gasoline, which was a mechanical failure not uncommon in the plane type. So this was something that the Navy was aware of.
So they think both of them exploded?
Yeah, I think the implication is one exploded, but they were both maybe in formation, and that caused the other to explode. Maybe? I'm not sure.
Possible, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, regardless, that's what they believe the most likely explanation for that is. At 21:15, so what's that, like 9 p.m., 9:15 p.m., the tanker SS...
11:15. No, wait, you're right. I'm stupid. You're right. It is 9:15. Yeah.
The tanker SS Gaines Mills reported that it had observed flames from an explosion at roughly its position, which is probably the PBM's explosion. So on screen right now, I have a little picture showing the kind of transit route of the flight 7. What was it? Flight 19. That formation. So at the number 1 point, they leave Fort Lauderdale, drop bombs at the Shoals, which was B, then continue on a heading of 091 for 67 nautical miles, and then number 2, they were to turn left on heading 346 and fly 67 nautical miles, and then number 3, which was what was meant to happen on this map, they were meant to turn left to heading 241 to end the exercise north of Fort Lauderdale, but instead, as you can see on the number 4 bullet point on the map, that's where they ended up. At 1750, radio triangulation established the position to within 50 nautical miles of this area, way northeast of the intended position, I guess you could say. So very interesting, but I think human error.
Yeah, probably. Not the Bermuda Triangle.
Now, is this even inside of the Bermuda Triangle? Because isn't the Bermuda Triangle south off of Florida?
Yeah, this one seems a little too high for the Bermuda Triangle.
No, I think it cuts into it.
Maybe like the number 2 spot.
I don't know. I'm looking at the map right now. It does in the beginning. The 2 and the 3. Yeah. The 2 maybe. The 3 up to the 4 is out of it, I believe.
So I think the idea would be like when they crossed the Bermuda Triangle, they got hit with the stupid beam or whatever, and they got lost. And so it led to their demise.
That's what it was. That actually is true. Yeah. It killed navigation in the triangle, which is what led to them crashing outside of it.
Which I guess we could attribute to the Bermuda Triangle at the end of the day, because their compasses the
navigation went out in the triangle.
Yeah, exactly. So still Bermuda Triangle. Actually, this might be the most actual Bermuda Triangle orientated casualty event so far, honestly.
2 days after Christmas, 1948, a DC-3 left for Miami from San Juan, Puerto Rico. The aircraft was given the okay to fly, even though it had known electrical problems within its system and nearly discharged batteries. The name of this plane, by the way, is the A. Douglas DST-144. Mm-hmm. It was holding 29 passengers and 3 crew members. The flight had to contact the San Juan Tower after takeoff to communicate an IFR, or Instrument Flight Rules, flight plan, but the tower heard nothing. It was seen that the aircraft was continuing at a cruising altitude, and the plane tried to contact Miami at 4:13 to relay that they were 50 miles south of Miami. This transmission was actually received by New Orleans, which is not in Florida. Fun fact.
I knew that.
And then sent to Miami. That was the last that was ever heard from the aircraft. Some think that the plane had gone past Florida and was heading over the Gulf of Mexico. Fuel would have exhausted, and with all electrical issues they were having, they may not have been able to contact anyone over the radio. The aircraft disappeared and nothing has ever been found. 2 bodies were discovered on the 4th of January 1949 to the south of Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and some news outlets reported that they were from the missing aircraft. This has never been confirmed. An investigation was opened up in regards to the aircraft's disappearance, but due to the plane simply vanishing and no wreckage being found and no real information being able to be gleaned from anything, they could not determine a probable cause for the loss of the aircraft. It is really scary, the idea that planes can just disappear. Like, even in the modern age, that Malaysian flight.
This day. Yeah, the Malaysian airline flight. Yeah, even with all of our triangulate GPS.
Yeah, exactly. We would know, but still, it's possible that you can just vanish off the face of the earth.
Yeah, as long as you're in a plane. You can't do it when you're off the plane. The government's track you to an inch, but when you're on a plane, you may as well be in a different world, apparently.
You're in the clouds. can't be seen.
You're above the satellites at that point, I think. I think that's how that works.
Yeah, that's definitely how it works.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that one. It's probably comes down to mechanical issues with the plane. They were pretty old plane, I think. Well, actually, during the 40s, probably not old, but still, regardless, I think they were having mechanical problems from the reports that I was reading. But it is possible that they lost control of their instruments due to the Bermuda Triangle's spooky paranormal elements.
That's certainly possible.
Any thoughts, Charlie? What do you think?
To me, it just sounds like it was a navigational issue since their transmission wasn't received by the intended place. They may have just gone too far and just ran out of fuel, as suggested.
Wait, you talking about the last one?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. The Douglas. Did you forget that part? Because their transmission was received by New Orleans, and then they think that it had gone over Florida, heading to the Gulf of Mexico, and then with fuel exhausted, yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah. I'm a bit confused how they ended up in Cuba though, the alleged bodies.
Yeah, I guess it's maybe learning that they're so low on fuel just have them panicking and sending them in different directions. But I think the whole thing was just a navigational problem and they just couldn't correct it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
The Marine Sulphur Queen left Texas on the 2nd of February 1963 en route to Norfolk, Virginia. It was carrying
That was a big one.
Yeah, Bermuda Triangle's got my sinuses firing.
Yeah, he's just thinking about all those lives lost. It's really getting to him.
It's a mechanical failure of his nose right there.
Yep.
It was carrying 15,000 tons of molten sulfur and 39 men. There were...
Sorry, that
is pretty funny, actually.
Like the ship carrying a super bomb disappeared for some reason.
The aliens need that material.
Yeah.
What does molten sulfur even mean? Does that mean it was melted down into a bomb material? What?
I don't know. I don't know why. I guess you have to move molten sulfur around sometimes.
Suspicious that the super explosive boat seemingly disappeared. Everywhere I look online, it looks like it's an active lava.
They're just transporting lava from local volcanoes.
They're wondering what happened to the ship. Where'd it go wrong?
There's no telling what went wrong. Sorry.
I mean, it was called the Sulphur Queen. Surely it was built for that purpose.
You'd think.
You would hope.
There were no reports of bad weather, and there were no distress signals ever sent, but the Marine Sulphur Queen sailed into the ocean and was never seen again. No wreckage was ever found. The whole incident caused
because it was fucking vaporized in the explosion.
They got deatomized.
It's like Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen just
completely disappears.
Yeah.
The whole incident caused a very lengthy litigation between the owner of the ship and the families of those who were on board. Though it is linked to the mysterious Bermuda Triangle, an investigation found that the ship was not seaworthy and should have never set sail.
You don't say. The investigation found that you shouldn't transport lava via boat. Or at all.
Continue, I'm sorry.
The investigation came up with a few reasons the ship was unsafe. It suffered from corrosion, it had a ruptured steam coil in one of its tanks, inoperative automatic temperature gauges, and more.
What? You're transporting lava, you don't have working temperature gauges on the thing at least?
That was the way. When you said the investigation said there were a few reasons the ship was unsafe, yeah. I imagined the in port checking off, there's not even in containers, just lava going down the stairs of it, all over. He's like, yeah, this checks out to me, y'all. Have a safe travel. No telling what goes wrong. Oh.
The disappearance took place in the Triangle, and this was actually the first victim attributed to the Triangle in a modern sense. Vincent Gaddis, the writer to popularize the term Bermuda Triangle, in his article for Argosy magazine in February 1964, mentioned the Marine Sulphur Queen as the first Triangle victim. He wrote barely a year after the ship sank, with a crew of 39, the tanker Marine Sulphur Queen began its final voyage on the 2nd of February 1963 from Beaumont, Texas, with cargo of molten sulfur. Its destination was Norfolk, Virginia, but it actually sailed into the unknown.
Yeah, so journalists or article writers were already kind of concocting this mysterious element of the Bermuda Triangle. This is when it really became kind of like popularized in that sense, this mysterious area of ocean, even though the disappearances weren't that uncommon in other areas of the ocean as well. They latched onto this one.
Gaddis had no theory as to the sinking and ignored the many realistic explanations the Coast Guard cited and instead ran with the theme many writers after him would continue. These stories played with my writers like Gaddis.
My writers. My writers, not my writers. Come on, you use logic. You know what it is.
Well, no, that just didn't make it. Okay, whatever. These stories played with by writers with Gaddis are what led to the proliferation of the Bermuda Triangle as a mysterious and terrifying area in culture.
Okay, just so people know what happened there was a typo in the document. It said played with my writers like Gaddis. Charlie literally is like the Anchorman meme where Ron Burgundy just reads the fucking transcript directly.
So this is in 1967. Dan Burak was cruising through the waterways of the Miami harbor with Father Patrick Horgan. They were in his cabin cruiser named Witchcraft and were out to look at Christmas lights. At 9 p.m. that night, Dan sent out a call for assistance. He was apparently very calm and explained that he had hit something below, but it wasn't an emergency. They needed a tow back. Dan probably thought that the damage had been done to the propeller or the rudder, and minutes later, someone was on the way to assist. And at 9:19 p.m., they were at the Witchcraft's location, but it was completely gone. A flare was meant to be set off by Dan to give their exact location, but it was never set off. They escalated a search for the missing boat, but nothing was found. The rescue boat was just minutes away from Witchcraft, but there was nothing, no clues or anything left behind. The boat was meant to be unsinkable. But I don't know, like how? How is something supposed to be unsinkable? Everything can fucking sink.
Well, aren't all boats meant to be unsinkable?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that's their entire purpose.
And
as opposed to the popular sinkable line of ships.
And whatever happened would have been extremely swift. While many think that they could have fallen victim to paranormal circumstances, really the damage to the ship may have been much worse than initially thought. I mean, yeah, for sure, that's exactly what it was.
The boat was called Witchcraft.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was probably still a lot of molten sulfur there.
Yeah, left over from the Marine Sulfur Queen.
Yeah.
Just eating away at the surface of the water.
Yeah, they hit a lava area. The lava area.
There's just lava sitting on top of the ocean. It's like there's no telling what happened.
Why were they transporting lava?
I don't think it's actually. I think the pictures you see is like in the process of making it. Afterwards, it becomes.
Why
like
are we
a
making
powder,
lava?
to my understanding. Well, because it becomes a powder and you can use it in like chemicals and stuff. But it's funnier to imagine it as lava on the ship.
That's how I want to imagine it.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
I don't know much about lava. All right, so the next one is the El Faro, and this is the most recent situation.
In October of 2015, an American cargo ship, the El Faro, sailed into a Category 3 hurricane.
Smart decision.
Yeah. What could have gone wrong? They were near the Bahama Island, where Hurricane Joaquin was said to be the worst to ever hit the Bahamas. 33 people were on the ship when it succumbed to the weather. The captain of the ship, Michael Davidson, was reported to be a stickler for safety. What ensued ended up being the worst U.S. maritime disaster in 3 decades.
I love the continuation of that sentence. This guy was a stickler for safety. What ensued was the worst U.S. maritime disaster in 3 decades.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
That's sad, yeah. Before anything could happen, the captain made a call to John Lawrence, the safety and operations manager for the owner of the cargo ship company, Tote. He did not sound stressed, and the call was less than a minute long. He simply said that they had a navigational incident, a scuttle popped open on 2 deck, and they were having some free communication of water go down the 3 hold.
No clue what any of that meant. I don't know what a scuttle is.
I think I've heard this call before. He's basically saying that they had something pop open and there was some water working its way into the bottom of the ship. So they're going to try to get that fixed, but basically something opened up and they're taking on a small amount of water right now. Not something impossible to happen. Yeah. He assured that everyone was okay, but he wanted to check in and let them know what was happening. This was at 7 a.m. 1 minute later, he called the Tote Emergency Center. He was less calm and declared a marine emergency.
It's crazy how quickly things can change in those kinds of situations from minute to minute. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes from a like standard procedure to emergency. Yeah.
Holy fuck, we're sinking, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at shipwrecks like the what was that? The Costa Concordia.
Yeah.
Like that went from like, oh, we don't know how bad it is to everyone off the ship immediately in like 20 seconds, you know.
Well, wait, the Costa Concordia, wasn't it like they had a lot of time to actually declare the emergency, but the fucking captain and
I'm
stuff.
saying the initial like visualization of the injury to the boat, like it went from the crew realizing how serious it was. Then the crew took like 30 minutes to actually tell people to get off because they didn't want to. They mishandled it. They should have realized in 20 seconds how serious it was, but they didn't. Yeah. When he was on the call to the emergency line, he asked if they were connecting him to a qualified individual, and the people on the other end said they were, but needed to confirm details. They asked him to spell the ship's name, and stressed, he said, "Oh man, the clock is ticking. Can I please speak to a QI? El Faro, Echo, Lima, Space, Foxtrot, Alpha, Romero, Oscar, El Faro."
Was he fucking routed through like a call center or something?
Yeah, why would they give him like a quiz?
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Imagine how fucking
he's calling the emergency center. Why are they like, can you spell it?
Probably a prank call.
He was getting more and more agitated as it was taking longer to get a qualified individual. He said they had lost the main propulsion unit and the engineers were not keeping it going. Could not keep it going. Mm-hmm. When he got through to Lawrence, he seemed calm, but gave the heads up that he might push the electronic distress signal. Lawrence tried to give as much information as possible to help on their predicament. Information like the swell, the winds, poor visibility, but it wasn't much. "Do your thing, Captain," he ended the call with. The reply, "We're in survival mode now." Those were the last words heard from El Faro.
Jesus Christ. Do your thing, Captain. That's the best Lawrence had for the fucking situation.
Oh, good luck out there. Hope it goes well, yeah.
Oh my God.
Lawrence tried to call back around 7:45, but couldn't reach the ship. Little did he know, it had already sunk. As time slowly passed, panic started to rise. Search and rescues went out, but on the 5th day of search and rescue, it was officially announced El Faro had likely sunk. Even as they continued to search for possible survivors, all that turned up was oil slicks, empty immersion suits, 3 life rings, and 20 miles of floating dolls from a burst container.
Creepy.
Dolls.
Yeah.
Well, the ship had dolls on it?
Yeah, they had like normal passengers on board.
How big was the El Faro?
Wait.
Right?
It's a cargo ship, yeah.
It's cargo ship. 33 people were on board, yeah.
I guess a couple of them could have dolls, I suppose.
No, it says there's 20 miles of floating dolls from a burst container. That's a bit more than just like a traveler complement.
That's true. That is a lot of dolls.
There's a lot of dolls. The El Faro must have been transporting dolls.
Yeah, it had to be one of the shipping containers was like a doll.
Full of dolls.
Yeah, okay.
Or it's a spelling mistake and I don't remember what the actual word is.
I don't know what it would even... Rolls 20 miles of... I don't know, yeah.
Let's go with does.
Of does. It was like deer. 20 miles of floating does, yeah. Investigations immediately began. The ship was found upright on a sandy pit more than 15,000 feet below the surface, man. They managed to retrieve... Yeah, we have no business being in the ocean. They managed to retrieve the recorder, which contained the final 26 hours of conversation among many of the crew on board, and a 496-page manuscript was created. In an interview with Coast Guard Captain Jason Nauber, he talked about how, on the tape, there were many conversations between the crew concerned with the hurricane and severe weather that they were heading into. But the captain was confident they could make it through with minimal disturbance. He also said that even though El Faro was an older ship, it appeared that the true severity of the hurricane was the reason that the ship went down.
Yeah, so I think they underestimated the hurricane, and that's what did them in.
especially big ships like this, like they go through storms all the time. They have to, right? This is the way supply lines work. So it's not uncommon to see a storm and be like, oh, that'll be fine. We can push through it. But it seemed to just be more than they thought.
Hurricanes are probably different. That's something that probably does prevent ships from traveling through them, I would have to imagine, right?
At least to this degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, did this cargo ship not have any like escape rafts or anything? Because it seems like he knew that it was dire, and it seems like he had time. Did they not try and get away?
Well, what are you gonna do in an escape raft, right? Because now you're just in a smaller boat in a hurricane.
Yeah, I know. It's just one of those things where it's like it gives you a chance as opposed to just going down.
Well, it's entirely possible that they did try that. We don't know.
That's true.
They could have entered those rafts and immediately sunk as well. Like,
that is very possible.
Sadly, there was no way out of that situation. And then, so the next thing, we're pretty much done on the events, like the notable events that we wanted to talk about for this episode of things that happened, tumultuous events that happened in the Bermuda Triangle. But let's talk about what the Bermuda Triangle became due to, like, you know, authors writing stuff and people just proliferating their more mysterious ideas. So the earliest case of people referring to the area as both a triangle and the Bermuda Triangle are in the 1950s. So that's when it was kind of popularized. The Associated Press article titled, quote, or this is the name, "The Case of the Vanishing Ships" in September 1950 referred to the area as a triangle where ships and planes had disappeared. Another example can be found in a 1952 article in Fate magazine titled "Sea Mystery at Our Back Door," written by George X. Sand. In that article, the term Bermuda Triangle is used to describe the area, though it's unsure for sure if this is the first time it was used. It's just the earliest kind of example of when I could find it used. So it's probably around that time. We're completely unsure if that's actually the first time it was used. It was previously, like, I had read that earlier explorers had called it the Devil's Triangle or something similar to that. So the Bermuda Triangle could be a continuation of that theme. In 1973, 10 years after the Marine Sulphur Queen crashed and Vincent Gaddis, that journalist from before, that writer from before, popularized the term, a book titled The Bermuda Triangle, The Great Unsolved Mystery of Our Time was published. Written by Charles Berlitz, the book explores the theories surrounding the mysterious area. This book added fuel to the fire around all of the more bizarre theories about the Bermuda Triangle, bringing to the masses stories and thoughts about UFOs, space-time warps, and how the area may be connected to Atlantis. This book has come under a lot of criticism for how it pushes the more strange theories surrounding the Bermuda Triangle. Many call it outdated, and due to how many copies it sold and how popular it became, it thrust the Bermuda Triangle into the height of its popularity with conspiracy theorists. So this is really the book that kind of like pushed it beyond just, hey, this is a weird place where ships sometimes crash. Like, this is what we're calling the area where all these ship disasters kind of happened, to like this notion that this place is fucking weird. You know, there's aliens, there's Atlantis, this place is wild. So this book really kind of, you know, created that image for the Bermuda Triangle. And that was in 1973. And fun fact, what's it called? SeaWorld's Bermuda Triangle ride opened up in like 1980, I think. So we were on the forefront of the Bermuda Triangle explosion.
Coincidence?
You guys.
Coincidence?
We jumped on that bandwagon real quick. So now we're getting into the more weird and wacky elements of the Bermuda Triangle with
The
that
more
kind
believable
of segue.
elements.
Yeah, the more
there
believable
you go.
elements. Absolutely.
Get to the
Charlie,
truth.
This is about the aliens, of course. Many believe that the Bermuda Triangle is a hotspot for paranormal activity, even going back to the strange light that Christopher Columbus saw. Was that potentially a UFO? Then Jackson dropped a YouTube link about a UFO that flies over Miami. Shocking footage.
That's the title. I didn't give it that. That's the title of the video.
And
Do you want to watch? Let's just watch it real quick. That looks like a UFO to me, guys.
Wow.
Why are you filming the coastline? Film the UFO. What are you doing?
He's showing how no one else is seeing this.
Oh, what? There's more of them.
Whoa.
What is that?
That's some shocking footage is what that is.
I am
Wow,
shocked.
that's crazy.
Yeah, if we can't show this footage due to History Channel being pricks, it's linked below. You'll be able to find it in the show document. Go check it out.
The best part about it is he immediately becomes a YouTube vlogger because he's like, wow, anyway, I'm in Miami, got my crib here, got my boys, we in the city.
Oh, they kind of like disperse into different directions at the end there. Interesting.
It's irrefutable.
Looks convincing to me, so.
It didn't seem... Was that over the Bermuda Triangle, though? Because it was like the coastline.
Miami's right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, if that counts, fine.
In this video uploaded by History, the proof is out there, Bermuda Triangle edition. There's a featured clip from June 2020 in Miami. Video shows strange light being filmed in the sky. When zoomed in, it's a cluster of 6 lights, with one brighter than the rest. Then the lights spread apart as 5 zoom off into space at warp speed.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
In 2018, a user on Google Maps reported that he found a UFO sighting in the Big Cypress National Preserve, Florida, just around the Bermuda Triangle area.
Mm-hmm.
However, many suggest that this could be a butterfly, half cut off by the camera due to being moving and the way Google Maps Street View is shot. Here's a close-up. I don't know what people are smoking. This is clearly a UFO using some sort of phase-shifting technology, or perhaps some advanced form of Lepidoptera cloaking mechanism. Yep.
I mean, it speaks for itself, guys. It's clearly a UFO.
This is a UFO.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're so devilish to appear as butterflies now. One of our most sacred creatures. What devils they are.
You can tell it's a UFO by the alien little antenna hanging out off of the front.
That's true.
Alien communication.
All I'm saying is when those guys get here, I can't wait to shoot them. I'm so excited to shoot an alien because this is what they get using butterflies against us. Absolutely not happening.
That is disgusting.
Shameful acts from the aliens.
They think they'll get by with that. They've got another thing coming.
They're in for a rude awakening, Buster.
So for audio listeners, though, it's literally a butterfly. Like, you know how like Google, what are they called? Google Maps cars, kind of like. If you like pan forward a lot of the stuff is cut off because of the shutter speed of the cameras and stuff and the movement of the cars. So it's literally just a butterfly cut in half from the shutter. Like it's just half of a butterfly. Very obvious from the pattern of the wings, but also pretty obvious that it's a UFO.
In 2018, a treasure hunter who was exploring the depth of the Bermuda Triangle claims that he found wreckage of an alien spaceship. Daryl Miklos came across a strange spaceship that had bizarre protrusions. The wreck was found near the Bahamas within the region of the Bermuda Triangle. Daryl says that he used a secret map that was made by a friend of his that used to be a NASA astronaut, Gordon Cooper, to look for shipwrecks.
Why was a NASA astronaut making pirate maps?
Yeah, I don't know. He's making treasure maps and shit.
Maybe it's because he's up in the ISS so he can see all the wrecks from up there. And so he was like coursing it on a map for when he got back to Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
That's probably what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Daryl found the spaceship 300 feet below the surface. Daryl used a subversive craft and specialized breathing gear to get to this depth. He was originally looking for the 16th century English ships relating to Sir Francis Drake. Daryl believes that the object was not man-made, and due to the incredibly thick layer of coral on the ship, it may have been laying there for possibly thousands of years. Here's a statement from Daryl. Certainly nothing I've ever seen based on my experience, and I have years of experience at doing this. We've identified multiple different types of shipwreck material. This doesn't match or look anything like that. And then Jackson's got some pictures here.
Doesn't look like it just looks like a coral bed to me, but I'm assuming Daryl's the expert and he's been there. Maybe it looks different in person. But yeah, it just looks like coral to me.
Yep, that does just look like coral.
I mean, but to be fair,
that's what they want you to look. If they're willing to be a butterfly, I think they're willing to be some coral.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess their designs would be really foreign to us, but it'd be very weird if they're powered by like gas chimneys. And like they need like a chimney to pump the gas out.
They need to pump alien gas out. That's what it's for.
When you think of UFOs, you don't think of like exhaust pipes or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like to benefit of the doubt, because I want to be conspiratorial, like if a UFO did crash in the ocean and it was there for thousands of years, I guess that's what it would look like with coral growing all over it, and you would be barely able to tell what's underneath the coral because of thousands of years of growth.
Now you're thinking right.
Okay, I like that. Yeah.
The legend of Atlantis began thousands of years ago in the written works of Plato. It is an intriguing mystery, and the story, its founders, half god and half man, the city being a proverbial proverbial utopia before it crumbled and sunk into the depth of the ocean forever. The theory of Atlantis is not unique to the Bermuda Triangle. Charles Orser, a curator of history at the New York State Museum, has said, pick a spot on the map, and someone has said that Atlantis was there. But the strangeness surrounding the Bermuda Triangle lead many to believe that Atlantis existed there and crashed into its depths. This has mainly come from previously mentioned book by Charles Berlitz, who has said that Atlantis, the eighth continent, was swallowed up by the Bermuda Triangle. Those who believe Charles support his theory that what is called Bimini Road, also known as Bimini Wall, an underground rock formation just under a kilometer long, the strangely uniform rocks make it appear to be a pavement under the water. There's no other evidence supporting the Atlantis theory, and the Atlantis theory also does very little to explain why planes and ships keep disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle in the first place, unless the Atlanteans are very protective of their region.
Yeah, they've got anti-air cannons down there or something, taking down all these planes.
Yep. And then that's really just a listening hub for Agartha and Hollow Earth and all the Germans that made it down there after World War II, and they're still mad. That's why they keep shooting down American ships.
Yeah, they're still in World War II down there in Atlantis.
Yeah. Never let the fire die.
Fight the good fight. And then there's a picture here of the Bimini Road, and pavement. That's what they got from this. It's like a road. That's all that's left of Atlantis is
giant vehicles.
Oh yeah, they had giant underground water tanks. It kind of that idea reminds me of how Atlantis was portrayed in Aquaman. I think that was Atlantis, right?
Yeah,
the most recent ones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, if Atlantis is going to be anywhere, I'm going to put my foot down. It's in the Bermuda Triangle. If it's anywhere,
I don't see that's always bothered me because Plato wrote about it. And it's an exclusively Greek thing. So wouldn't it be over near the Mediterranean or at least off the coast or
no? Plato holidayed in the Caribbean all the time, my dude.
You're right.
He was constantly out there. He had a sick tan.
And the aliens sunk it. You're right. Why didn't I think of that? What a fool I've been.
Yeah, he loved the Caribbean.
So this is about wormholes and space anomalies. It's something I'm a preeminent expert on. Bruce Jernan didn't believe in any space and time travel until something unexplainable happened to him in 1970. The story goes he was flying with his dad on a route they had flown before when just after takeoff he noticed an elliptical cloud that was lower than he had seen one before. They kept in contact with Miami Flight Service, who had told them that the weather was good. They decided to press on. As they continued to climb in altitude, they noticed that so did the cloud. Suddenly it engulfed their plane. They climbed in and out of the cloud for around 10 minutes before they broke free. The sky in front was clear, but when Bruce looked behind, the cloud was now a strange shape, like a giant semicircle around the plane, which continued beyond what he could see. They continued, and another cloud formed in front of them, bigger than before. Entering the cloud, it immediately became pitch black, and there was no visibility for around 5 minutes. He witnessed bright white lights.
5 miles.
Oh, 5 miles. Right. 5 miles. He witnessed bright white lights flashing, but it wasn't lightning, and the further they went, the flashes became more and more intense. It's possible that this was a natural phenomenon known as St. Elmo's fire, which is a reproducible and demonstrable form of plasma. This occurs around some aeroplanes and is created from an atmospheric electric cloud. They ended up taking a turn and heading south out of the cloud. They thought they might have been able to fly around the cloud, but they quickly realized that it surrounded them. After a few miles of flying, they noticed a pathway opening to the west and turned to try and exit the cloud ring. Bruce said that the top and bottom path joined, creating a hole for them to exit through. They could see a bright blue sky on the other side. The hole was shrinking, so they increased their speed. They were in the tunnel for 20 seconds before making it to the other side, but they made it. Their electronics and magnetic navigation equipment were malfunctioning, and when they contacted Miami, a radar controller was unable to identify them anywhere in the area they appeared to be in, 45 miles southwest of Bimini. They had seen blue sky on the other end of the tunnel, but everything was a gray-white haze when they managed to escape the cloud. They could not see the ocean below them. Bruce called it an electrical fog, believing this was what was interfering with their equipment. He used his instincts to guide them back west. They were in the electrical fog for 3 minutes when the radar controller contacted them, saying they had their location directly above Miami Beach. When Bruce looked at his watch, he noticed they had been flying for less than 34 minutes.
Oh my god.
This perplexed him. The timing wasn't right. They should not be at Miami Beach yet. The fog around them split into strange long lines, thinning until they were completely gone. Then he saw it. Miami Beach, right below them. The flight Bruce and his father took had taken around 47 minutes long. They had never made the same flight in less than 75 minutes previously. How had they gotten there so quickly, especially with all the bizarre circumstances they flew through? And here's a statement from Bruce. It should have taken about 4 minutes to travel through the tunnel since it appeared between 10 and 15 miles long. Instead, this is precisely how long it took for us to leave the storm and reach clear skies. The remarkable thing is that we did not come out of the storm 90 miles away from Miami as we should have. We traveled through 100 miles of space and 30 minutes of time in a little more than 3 minutes.
That's really cool.
He wrote a book called Bermuda Triangle Survivor, and it's this picture of a plane splitting through like circular cloud portals.
It's like that's a wave, so it's not even true to his own story. I think it looks like a wave to me.
It does. It's supposed to be a cloud, though.
Yeah,
but it definitely does look like a wave.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty cool story, right? Was it made to sell his book, or was it genuine? What do you guys think?
I think it was probably genuine. That playful little cloud transported him through space and time.
It's such a funny story.
I mean, not to that degree. I could see maybe like storm winds accelerating a plane, but not to that degree, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, tailwinds definitely contribute to a faster, jets.
But they would notice if they were going like 4 times as fast through a cloud.
I don't think you would ever make that kind of time, even with like the wind's assistance.
I also feel like that would rip the plane apart.
Yeah, they would have, like, the G-forces alone in that plane would have fucking turned them to paste, probably, with that speed.
They're all sucked into the back of the chair. This little biplane, yeah.
But, okay, here's another point, one of the few points against the theory. Why the fuck would there be a wormhole designed only to travel you 3 minutes
by Miami?
Distance? Yeah. Like
it's the Miami wormhole.
To get you in and out of Miami quicker, of course.
Wormholes are designed to like bridge distances between galaxies, and the aliens are using it to go from the Keys to like Miami.
You know, it would be funny. It would be funny. So like there's all that stuff about like HAARP, government weather control, that they like are trying to manipulate clouds and stuff like that. If the way they tested it was just like screwing with random pilots, like let's shave 30 minutes off their flight and see if they notice. They're just doing that sporadically. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, I love the story. It's hilarious. Potentially drug related. I feel like they were hotboxing that bitch. Those weren't clouds on the outside.
Bro, hotboxing a plane with your boys has to be a vibe. Like, just gone in the clouds.
Yeah, just having
the
a
Bermuda
grand
Triangle
time.
is a preeminent drug spot. People go there to just blast off.
It's true.
Fucking awesome. All right, so then there's a few other like really weird stuff around the Bermuda Triangle. One is the methane bubbles. Huge craters were discovered in 2016 by researchers from the Arctic University of Norway, which is pretty far away from Bermuda, and they shared that these were probably caused by underwater deposits of methane. Methane is a highly flammable, colorless, and odorless gas and can cause massive eruptions. Many have latched onto this idea that methane deposits may have caused the shipwrecks in the Bermuda Triangle. The theory gained so much traction that the researchers themselves had to come out and make a statement that they were in no way making any links to the Bermuda Triangle. That's always my favorite, is when conspiracy theorists hound scientists just trying to do like research and stuff to get them to comment on their conspiracy theories, and then the scientists actually having to comment on it. It's so funny. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's a potential answer for some of the. I mean, not really.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
wouldn't do much.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it's too connected. But regardless, there's methane down there. Another one, the hexagonal clouds. There are the theories that clouds that hang around the Bermuda Triangle are like air bombs, which could be strong enough to sink ships and strike down planes. Satellite imagery has shown unusual hexagonal-shaped cloud formations above the Bermuda Triangle. We've got a picture on screen right now showing it, which according to meteorologist Dr. Randy Cervini, they're formed by microbursts and blasts of air, which microbursts are like extremely dangerous to airplanes. So that is actually a possibility. They like shoot planes down, basically, just like these very heavy condensations of air that like force planes down. These blasts can be incredibly powerful, reaching up to 170 miles per hour, which could possibly be capable of causing irreparable damage to ships and planes. Which, yeah, I mean, that's a potential more believable than the methane bubbles anyway, in terms of something that could cause planes to come down.
In every strange story within the Bermuda Triangle, compasses and electronic equipment malfunction. It has been reported that compasses point to the true north instead of the magnetic north. These strange magnetic anomalies have caused theorists to believe this is how many have disappeared in the area. Wait, the whole thing about they point to the true north, is that saying there's a north that isn't actually like our north? Is that what that's saying?
Well, I think so, because the magnetic...
It points past the great ice wall to the greater Thule and lands beyond time.
So how compasses work, right, is like there's magnetic fields around the Earth, and the compasses point to those magnetic fields, which is magnetic north. But then there is a true north, I think, and then they're saying when you're in the Bermuda Triangle, compasses start to point to the true north.
I see. Okay. The Bermuda Triangle is also the home of unruly weather. It is known to be unpredictable, sudden storms, hurricanes, waterspouts, and more forming quickly. The sudden weather patterns can be violent and severe, making it difficult to navigate through and can cause reduced visibility. This also causes extreme rogue waves, which have been documented in the Bermuda Triangle. They're incredibly large and can pose extreme damage to ships, even causing capsizing or sinking.
So rogue waves are like they're like the tidal, they're like tsunamis.
Terrifying.
Like what you imagine tsunamis are. Like tsunamis, when they come to the coastline, it's like more like flooding, basically. You have this like mental image of a giant wave. Then tsunamis on the coastline aren't really that. It's like an inundation of water pouring over the land, just a lot of like displacement of water. I mean, waves can get pretty big, but it's mostly just like a displacement of water. Rogue waves, on the other hand, are those enormous, colossal, fucking enormous waves out in the deep ocean that are just...
It looks like a skyscraper coming at you. Yeah,
it's terrifying.
Unreal. Like straight out of like a movie, like Day After Tomorrow or something.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, remember the planet in Interstellar where it's just the mountains in the distance? It's like, it's incredible. And you see like these really cool videos of like, not cruise ships, but like cargo ships from the interior deck as they go over these rogue waves and such. And it's just breathtaking. Like some of the wildest shit I've ever seen captured. Very, very scary. They're quite rare, but yeah, they're a thing that happens in the Bermuda Triangle quite often, apparently. Not sure why.
I'll take her home with the truth. Aliens, Atlantis, crazy phenomenons, the Bermuda Triangle is a notorious area of mystery and intrigue and has been for a long time. The sensationalized theories around the patch of sea have blown up to such a state that many take fiction for fact. So what is the truth? In 2017, Australian scientist Carl Kruzelnicki solved the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, and there was no mystery in the first place. Everything could fall under human error, bad weather, and heavy traffic flow. Realistically, the area dubbed Bermuda Triangle is a busy area for ships and planes to go through, and the amount of incidents and disappearances is comparatively similar to the rest of the world. He offered plausible theories to many of the events discussed. And are the hexagonal-shaped clouds really behind the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle? No. While weird, they are not uncommon. They can occur when cold and dry air combine over warm water, and these patterns happen everywhere. This is what I remember when I looked into this. It was just, this is such a common route that obviously there's going to be a lot of problems there, especially when it is like unruly. So it's not like that mysterious.
It's a path from the east coast of America. So it's like a popular travel route for like cargo ships and stuff.
Super
as well
popular
as like
route. Yeah.
Planes. So very obviously things are going to go wrong sometimes there. And like Carl says, the Australian scientist, the numbers of crashes and stuff that happen there
aren't higher than anywhere else.
Yeah, in fact, they might even be lower, I think.
It's just because where you have such congested traffic's where you're going to have the most accidents.
Yeah, you'll see right now in this next paragraph.
Highlighted by Johnny Harris in the video, what's really happening in the Bermuda Triangle? The Bermuda Triangle isn't even in the top 10 of the dangerous ocean regions in the world. He also reached out to Lloyd's List for data regarding casualties and incidents on the ocean, where he learned that only 0.02% of the boats that passed through the Bermuda Triangle area had accidents, which was 90 times lower than the global average.
So the Bermuda Triangle might actually be the safest route possible. It's actually the safest area in the ocean. Maybe that's what it is, like a super safe area. Go through
And
it.
they're trying to keep people away from it so they can have the safety to themselves.
Yeah.
That's true. Now you're thinking. There you go. That's a spirit.
The Atlanteans are trying very hard to safekeep that people's journeys through the Bermuda Triangle.
Lloyds of London have repeatedly insisted that the Bermuda Triangle is unremarkable and that there are no more losses or disappearances in that area than everywhere else. These are just as many losses as in other wide expanses of the ocean, which was said by a spokesperson back in 1997.
Wait, is this the same insurance company that did the ship back in the 1800s?
They're everywhere with the Bermuda Triangle.
All right.
Everywhere
They're
in the
covering
research.
up. There's no way. They're
They
covering
own
up
the Bermuda
accidents.
Triangle.
There's actually 90 times as many accidents there as everywhere else. Yeah.
It is
what
you
heck?
can't trust the insurance companies. I'm telling you, they're hiding something.
Rule number one. See, rule number one of the red thread.
And they're old money as well. They're from like the 1500s. This Lloyd's has been around forever. I don't trust them.
It's like the East Indian Trade Company. It's like,
yeah. I actually before this research, I had never heard of them before. And then when we were researching the Bermuda Triangle, they came up constantly. I was like, what the fuck is going on with Lloyd's? Why are they an expert on the Bermuda Triangle?
The Bermuda Triangle is often associated with compass malfunctions because it's one of the few places on Earth where a compass points to true north instead of magnetic north. However, the agonic line, marking where true north and magnetic north align, has shifted away from the triangle. While in the past this alignment may have caused navigation issues, it no longer passes through the area. This is a natural and explainable phenomenon.
Yeah, so the magnetic lines of the Earth or whatever shift over time. So compasses now work in the Bermuda Triangle. So it's lost that charming feature. Now you can travel there with your compass in hand and still be fine.
Experienced navigators compensate for magnetic declination, the difference between true north and magnetic north, and most incidents in the Bermuda Triangle can be attributed to human error rather than compass malfunctions. The area's reputation for mysterious disappearances likely stem from a combination of sensationalism and natural risks associated with navigating busy shipping lanes and air routes. And back to the video by History on the clip of the strange lights off Miami. They show that the video appeared to be edited, highlighting that all stories and situations stemming from this Bermuda Triangle are likely fabricated or blown out of proportion due to the very nature of the mystery that the writers created. Apart from the UFO, that shit is real.
Yeah, the butterfly UFO, that had to be real.
That's kind of irrefutable.
Yeah, you can't dismiss the UFO, baby.
Absolutely real, no question at all.
Everything else fake. I mean, all right, I'm also going to throw in the ghost ship. I believe that shit happened. That ship was haunted.
I think that's like somewhat possible too, especially during that time period. There's definitely something that could be true there, I guess.
Well, true that it actually happened, or true that ghosts took over.
No.
True that there was a ship that got abandoned. Yeah.
Yeah,
I just find it. I mean, Lloyd's covered for it. They said no, actually, no one died.
Yeah, but that's Lloyd, and we know what
Lloyd.
to think of Lloyd unofficially because they probably have 8 bajillion lawyers as a joke in Minecraft. Yeah, we know what to think of them. We know what they're up to.
This was kind of like a montage of some very interesting cases. I actually really enjoyed researching this one because it was so varied. I had a lot of fun with a lot of them there. And the Marine Sulphur Queen transporting lava, loved that. There was the whole ghost story, which was really cool.
This is also one of the most classic like conspiracy theory creepy stuff ever. Yeah.
This one's classic.
Have you guys heard any of like deeper conspiracies around the Bermuda Triangle that I didn't cover?
Yeah, I've heard that it's like a place that there's like government testing and stuff like that. And if a ship sees something they're not supposed to, they get shot down. I've heard that kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like the US government doing that off the shore of one of their most popular ports is probably the wrong idea. Like, surely that would have
we'll
to be.
We'll put our super secret base next to Miami. They'll never be there. Yeah.
And right next to our, like, what was historically, like, you know, an opponent to the US in Cuba.
Well, they're right doing all their wormhole travel, of course. What else?
Wait, that's what Biden needs to run on, infrastructure improvements via wormholes. I mean, that's obvious. Come on.
I think it was just my childhood brain combining different stuff without realizing there was a difference. But I feel like there was some piece of media I watched that attributed Amelia Earhart to the Bermuda Triangle, which doesn't make any sense because she crashed in the Pacific. Yeah, but I feel like I saw something that was like flying through, messed with her stuff or something.
Yeah. Actually, I remember that now too. Now that you bring it up, I do 100% remember that. Yeah, and that is one of the mysteries there. Radio transmissions indicated that the instructor got lost when compasses malfunctioned over the Bermuda Triangle.
But she crashed in the Pacific Ocean, didn't she?
Well, the idea is that because her whole idea was to circumnavigate the globe. So it's like as she flew through the Bermuda Triangle, that's where she lost her navigation and got lost. And she got the Bermuda virus.
Yeah, there also is directly some theories that say that it's a lie she crashed in the Pacific. Saying that she actually crashed in the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that before. Interesting.
Well, but the government was like, she actually crashed in the Pacific. You're safe to travel through the Bermuda Triangle. Was it a cover-up? Is that what you're saying?
I guess.
I see.
I'm just now seeing these. It's not what I believe.
All right. I guess we can wrap this up with what do you guys believe?
Uninteresting block of the ocean. It's apparently super safe, actually. So, not scary, not mysterious.
Statistically,
busted.
If you're ever going to travel anywhere across the ocean, make sure it's through the Bermuda Triangle because you will have a pleasant time, statistically speaking. I mean, same. No, I wish there was more information about the ghost ship because I love that part the most.
Yeah, the ghost ship's super cool. I think, maybe early on in like aviation and stuff, there was an issue with, maybe how some of the equipment works, that passing through an area that did used to have magnetic problems threw everything into a frenzy, and maybe that led to some lost ships and crashes. But other than that, I think it's just if you throw enough cars in one intersection, that intersection's going to have more wrecks than the others. But what I actually mean by all of that is that aliens disguise themselves as butterflies and are working with the Atlanteans from the remaining German soldiers that went to Agartha through Antarctica during World War II and are using it as a listening post and destroy anyone that gets too close. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. And don't forget that the butterflies have perfected wormhole technology and they're using it to travel to the beaches during summer, the Miami beaches during summer.
Absolutely true. Can't forget that.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to do it for this episode of Red Thread. I think we covered everything, and we have proven definitively that the Bermuda Triangle is pretty epic in terms of holiday destination. So book your tickets now. Travel to the Bermuda Triangle. Let us know if you've ever actually traveled through the Bermuda Triangle. Let us know what it's like. I bet it was just like a normal trip, really. It was just an ocean from what we're learning right now. But yeah, 100%. I guess let us know what you think of the Bermuda Triangle. Let us know your theories. Let us know anything, really. And suggestions for future episodes. We're always happy to hear suggestions for what you want to see covered on the Red Thread. Bermuda Triangle, I feel like, was an enormous one that we were going to get to eventually. And I'm glad we cracked that case wide open and we could see it for what it was. Other than that, that's going to do it for this episode. You guys got any final words?
Nothing from me.
Look out for butterflies and wormholes. Yeah. Look out for them.
Yep.
Very important. And thank you all so much for watching. It means a lot.
Yes, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Red Thread out. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Watch out for wormholes and butterflies. Can never trust them.